All right, guys. So today, our topic, because we're going to cover a variance of things under the sun that can be construed as being part of a conversation regarding consciousness and some of our negative beliefs and how can we foster more positive beliefs. So one topic that was on Pooja's mind was the topic of disassociation and how in difficult moments, sometimes for us to not feel in that moment, we will disassociate from our body and we will try and not feel a necessary thing because it's challenging or it's hard. So Pooja, you start us off. What can we talk about regarding this topic of disassociation?
Yeah, I feel like everybody disassociate in different ways. Especially, it is rooted in like childhood trauma. So, especially every person who has had experienced complex trauma in the childhood, they had their versions of like dissociating, and yeah. So I feel like the first form of disassociating can be like numbing yourself as in for say in the childhood you ask your parents about an opinion on your drawing that you drew and they didn't really appreciate that, so now the child has this idea about himself, this limited belief about himself that okay, regardless of what I do, like I'm not good enough, I cannot draw well enough. So now that creates a lot of shame. So now what the child does is he numbs himself, he shuts himself down because it is too hard to live with that feeling of constantly getting no validation, constantly being criticized. So the child numbs himself. And the other form can be distracting in terms of playing mindless video games the whole time and watching movies for the whole day and
Using it as an escape.
Yeah, using it as an escape. And then other forms of disassociating can be indulging in a fantasy world, because in the fantasy world now you don't have any real problems. Whatever you think can happen is happening in the fantasy world, and you're able to create a life that you want, that is free from judgment, that is free from criticism. So the child dissociates, and sometimes now, because over time that's what they have done, this is their default setting, and that's their default setting, and now it's not happening consciously. Now the child is disassociating subconsciously. So now that's their autopilot, that's their default, because now they consciously choose to not go back to the real life, because real life is too tough, it's too harsh, they cannot face what's the reality, so they like what they see in their fantasy world. And so first I talked about numbing, and some people, they go the other way, like they become cold, they become lifeless, and becoming cold as in like shutting down all their emotions, and or maybe numbing yourself to one emotion. Let's say you didn't got love in the childhood, so now you become cold and numb to love when you grow up as an adult. And over time what happens is, how it manifests in like too much thinking, and now there is a disconnect between your real life and and between you and you're not able to operate, you're not able to function in a day-to-day life, because now your mind is constantly zoning out. So all the other type of disorders like ADHD, borderline personality disorder,
Bipolar.
anxiety, depression, all these are variables of childhood trauma, and all these are kinds of a dissociation, and also called as dissociative personality disorder. And the more the trauma, the more the level of shame will be. So what the child actually there is doing is they are not disassociating from the reality, they are disassociating from the shame. And what shame is all the negative beliefs that the child internalized and the child believe about themselves, and because nobody likes to feel that way, so now the child has numbed himself, and that leads to dissociative personality disorder. And
I mean, just to add, like,
yeah,
we're not like, psychology experts or
yeah,
professionals in the field or anything like that, but these have just been things that we've been coming across from experts in the field, and we've tried to apply them to our own life and
yeah,
see how we can take something positive away from this information. And again, we're sharing this not with the intention of saying that we are superior authority on this, but in fact it's just another dialogue to help ourselves understand the topic better, and hopefully reach someone who might not have had access to
therapy.
or information regarding these kind of psychological issues, and maybe if it resonates with them, then give them an opening into going and doing their own research, starting their own line of thinking on this, and maybe getting therapy, or working through it in their own way, essentially. Like, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and the most severe form of dissociative personality disorder is when you start having out of bodily experiences. And let's say in the childhood, let's say if you have been sexually abused, it is too painful, and now the brain is trying to protect yourself because that's what it knows, that's the best thing to do at that time. Because as a child, we don't have the healthy tools, or we don't have the right tools to deal with these, so these are our coping mechanisms, and the brain chooses to shut down. And this is not what child voluntarily chooses, this is what the brain chooses for the child. And let's say a child has been sexually abused, so now the dissociative personality disorder let's say if the child is like being sexually abused, and because it's too painful, now the brain disassociates. And even if in the present moment the child is being sexually abused, but what the brain is doing is, in the brain you might be thinking, okay, like, oh, you're going on a vacation, you're traveling around the world, you're lost in this fantasy land with no response to your reality, with no response to what's actually happening to you. So whatever is actually happening to you, the abuse that's taking place in the present moment, so you are not feeling that at all, because in the headspace, like, you're completely like somewhere else, you're not in the present moment. So now the brain shuts itself down so that you don't feel that pain anymore. So over time, when you grow as an adult, what happens is, like, as a result of trauma, your body keeps the score. So over time, what's going to happen is you're going to have these flashbacks, you're going to have trouble like doing daily tasks, day-to-day tasks. Like let's say you're going to have trouble going through a notebook and or going through a book and finishing the book. You might be able to start it, but you will not finish the book. You will take a course, but you'll not be able to finish the course. So like in my case, what would happen is I would want to read a book, but what I would keep doing is I'll open the book and I'll just keep repeating the first line over and over and over and over in my head. So all these out of bodily experiences. So now as a result of that depersonalization, so your brain is fractured. So brain has fractioned the personalities into so many personalities. So now as an adult, so that becomes the most important task, to bring all those versions of you together, because how the brain sees you is, you will be angry so that you can protect yourself from the external world. You will be lovable so that you can get so much attention, but you cannot be all those things at the same time. So that's how the brain splits the personality. And you might have seen this movie that's called Split. It's just Hollywood's version of telling you, like trying to tell you about this dissociative personality disorder. So the person has 16 to 30 personalities in him. He is not an evil person, but now he has all those personalities inside of him because of his childhood trauma. So go check that movie out. And
he has a evil version, a caring
version,
many sides to him and built inside of him.
So that's the difference between a kid who grew up in a healthy environment and a traumatic kid. It's so easy for the healthy kid to have all these emotions. The kid will have all these emotions inside of him, and it will take place and every emotion has its purpose, and according to the situation, according to the context, the emotion will take place. But now, because the traumatic kid, he never got any validation, he never got any love, there was no sense of safety for him. He doesn't know, and because his brain shut down all these emotions, so now there's no emotional dysregulation. So now all the emotions are fractured. So now it's his job as an adult to bring these emotions together and become a whole person. So that will be the job if somebody is suffering from dissociative personality disorder. It will be very tough, and in the long run you'll go through so much, but the recovery is definitely possible. And while recovery, what you'll keep feeling is that your brain is feeling that constant need to disconnect, but because now you have the awareness that what the brain is doing to you, you will have the healthier tools to deal with these problems. So the moment you'll feel your brain is kind of sliding into those similar patterns, you just need to bring your awareness to the present moment and understand what's happening to the body. And that's the whole recovery phase looks like. So recovery will be, you will need to stay connected to your thoughts, to your feelings, and to your environment. And that's a constant practice of recovering from DID, dissociative identity disorder. Vishal, what do you want to add to it?
So I mean, basically it's I guess the journey begins at awareness, first of all. If we fall into unhealthy patterns and don't exactly know where they're coming from, why it is that we engage in unhealthy behaviors, which when we look back at it, we don't feel like is us. So as I was mentioning, the journey does begin at the awareness of why is it that we're engaging in unhealthy behavior, which we don't feel good about, but yet we keep getting trapped in cycles of doing it over and over. And this could just be one angle of looking at it. Again, just coming from people who are trying to work through their own stuff, trying to provide tools to you guys, if any of it helps. Why not just try every therapeutic or helpful approach at the wall, is my belief, and then see whatever works. Like, we can approach it from a mind, body, spirit, physical, psychological, growth oriented, evolution oriented mindset, and see what positive can come out of it. So yeah, that's my kind of take on it. And even in my case, I think the dissociation, like I remember there were phases of my life where I felt very strong emotions for characters in TV shows, but I of course, it's not like I didn't have empathy or I didn't have connection with people in the real world. But there were some elements where I had been personally traumatized, or where I was personally hurt, where I had probably disassociated and not taken full ownership of my behavior and how it was causing suffering to other people. Because when that traumatic event happened to me, I had disassociated to protect myself from the pain. And so when now I was maybe further causing harm to other people in my life, I was also disassociating from my behavior, because I never, like, that part of me at that particular instance of trauma had fractured. And in that fracture, it led to behavior way in my adult age where I couldn't understand, what's wrong here? What am I doing that's harmful here? And that part never made sense, because that was the only way for my childhood self to justify the trauma that happened to it. The inner child inside. That inner child was saying, this happened to you and at a young age, and so that was fine, and you lived through that. So now how could you be possibly hurting anyone? And that was a false narrative that it had to create. Otherwise, that inner child, that child at that time, might not have been able to live with itself or be able to handle that trauma. So, I know I'm being a little bit revolving here and talking about this, or it's just I'm trying to explain that that's the way that it manifests in our adult life, because we use those moments of our life to protect ourselves through disassociation. It's like all mechanisms for our brain to try and protect
decision, so that we can survive, because the brain is always living in a survival mode.
That's right.
So brain wants to protect us so that we can survive. So it's just a survival mechanism.
It's just nature or evolution's way of making sure that we will live on to pass on our genetic material to the next generation. But it doesn't consider what other negative side effects will come out of it. It will only think, as long as you live, means you have a chance of passing on your genetic material.
Exactly, because the brain also thinks that it will be too tough to live with those emotions, so it disassociates. It's thinking it's like actually helping us,
and at that time it probably did help us.
At that time, because as a child we don't have tools,
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's why that was the best thing that happened.
Limbic brain.
We're operating from a limbic brain, because our emotional brain, that's called a limbic brain. Like, that's what the child is most sensitive to. That's the brain he operates from. So it's just a survival technique that if we can be emotionally distant from all these emotions, then we will be able to survive. Because if we carry on these emotions, so it will be too hard for a child to carry the burden of those emotions and go on with with those emotions in their day-to-day life. So it just disassociates, and so that's how the narcissists are formed as well, because they are trying to overcompensate now. So in their head now they are thinking, oh, okay, I am this, I'm the greatest person, I know everything. Now they're overcompensating
because the level of shame is so
because
high.
the level of shame is, the
deep
trauma
down.
is so high.
Yeah.
So now they're overcompensating. So that's how narcissists are formed.
Right.
But
Their subconscious feels they're not enough.
Yep,
So to
exactly.
overcompensate, they give themselves a little bit too much credit, give them too much importance at the cost of other people's emotions and feelings. And,
definitely.
That makes sense. That's true. And so I mean, yeah, it's just it's about hopefully getting more understanding of ourselves. Like, this whole life feels like it's a process of self-discovery, and it feels like our purpose on this planet in this lifetime is to look at our consciousness from a slightly different angle and understand ourselves better, and just keep evolving and growing and reaching our fullest potential, and working towards our higher self. So it's if we tackle things from this approach where we're working on our physical body and trying to be as healthy and fit as we can within reason, we're working on our emotional aspects and the emotions that we were supposed to feel that we didn't end up feeling at the right time. We can correct course and now feel them, so that inner child can feel heard. It can feel listened to, and it can go back within your subconscious or your mind, and it can play the role of a child again, rather than trying to be in the driver's seat of the adult. It's like the best analogy is like, you wouldn't want to let your 5-year-old drive the car, because the 5-year-old isn't equipped with the necessary skills to do that. It doesn't have long enough legs to push the brake and accelerator. It doesn't have long enough arms to do proper turns, and most importantly, it doesn't have a complete understanding on the rules of the road and how this machine works, the consequences of its actions. Like, if that inner child ends up being in the driver's seat and being the dominant force behind our actions well into our adulthood, first of all, it's adulthood for a reason. It's like we want to essentially do our necessary work as an adult. We can still maintain a childlike and playful spirit in some contexts, but at the same time, the majority of the time, we want to behave like the age that we are. That's why people will often say that, hey, you're 30 but you're acting like a 12-year-old, or they'll say you're 50 and you're acting like a 80-year-old. Sometimes people can also go in the other direction, where they forget any sense of youth or the age that they are, and in fact they will slow down their growth by looking too far in the future and saying, at 35 or 40, like, why am I not in a completely retired phase of my life and just sitting and watching TV all day? Well, it's not your role yet. That's not the role that you're supposed to be playing, most probably, at that age. And yet you're trying to be something that your subconscious or your spirit might not want you to be at that time. That's perhaps a reason for that angst inside. So yeah, it can go either way, but there's a reason that we are at a particular phase of our life, and it's best to honor that phase. It's best to live in that reality rather than giving control to any future or past version of ourselves. Instead, let that present self be the one that is the dominant decision maker in our lives. Like that seems like the best course of action to take for all of us.
As a kid, like, we didn't had a choice. Like, whatever was happening to us, we had to take that because our lives were not in our control. But as an adult, so it's really important to not have that victim mentality, because what victim mentality does is it allows us to not grow, because we keep justifying whatever happened to us over and over, that okay, this and that happened to me, that's why I am this. And now what is happening is, so it's actually not doing any good to you, because now having a mentality like that, you are not growing. Not having a victim mentality doesn't mean, okay, whatever happened to you was fine. It doesn't mean that. It's for the sake of you, that you want to grow yourself. That's why you need to get out of the victim mentality. So now as an adult, you have like the full choice to be the person that you want to be, and to not let yourself be defined by your trauma. So you can have healthy tools, and during the recovery process, you will need a lot of support. You cannot do this by yourself. You need to have somebody who you can really trust. You should have somebody who you can reach out to, and
who's going to be there for you in
who's gonna be
various
there
ways
for
without
you.
judgment.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, and I think the most important thing is really need to target the shame element here, because that's the most negative like consequence that like results from a trauma. Shame, and shame further like results in so many other symptoms like ADHD, like we already talked about, DID and all that stuff. But addressing shame needs to be the first step, and you need to tell yourself that I don't need to associate myself with all these negative beliefs, because all these beliefs now are in the adult life are like hurting me, are not allowing me to grow, are like building resentment inside of me. So that's why it's really, really important to grow, and to take responsibility
for your evolution.
For your evolution. And the thing that can really help you is to have a routine, to have a constant routine for your daily life. That will help you come together as a person. And then what you can do is mindfulness is basically awareness. You can be aware of your thoughts. You can start journaling is like being aware and writing down what you feel about your day. How do you feel about your day? And basically taking notes of just like being aware in the present moment. And therapy will be really important. So most of these patients in recovery, so they have been through like 2 hours of therapy every single day, and that's when they saw the results. And therapy combined with all the techniques, so when you combine these two things together, then you can start seeing the results. And it is like definitely possible that you can recover from your trauma, and you can start to live a healthy life, and you can grow into a really wonderful human being. And because of shame, for a long time, shame has defined your whole life, and because of shame, now so many negative emotions come out of it. So many negative emotions come out of you, and because of the trauma you had, you become the person that you never wanted to be. Because of the shame, you're becoming the person you fear. You never wanted to be that person. So the shame is you being at your worst, and it's really important to address these issues. And
And I mean, you can again you can approach them from all angles. You can work on a healthier lifestyle in terms of, what food you're eating. It's going to help you if you decide to make better decisions in every aspect of your life. The kind of people that you spend your time with, are they people that are, infusing you with positive energy and giving you, hope, and are they enabling you to be better? or are they people that are taking you down a negative spiral? So, I mean, these are going to be important questions. All this will still come under the umbrella of awareness, because you'll have to be aware or mindful of what you're putting into your body, into your mind, into your spirit, and what you're putting out. If you see that you're putting out a lot of positive energy, it's probably a good sign that things are getting better from the inside, because I think in mine and Pooja's case, we can both say that when we are putting out positive energy, we feel better. We feel better than putting out negative energy towards ourselves, towards each other, towards the world, towards our family, friends, whoever. It's just a simple logic to it, is that positive energy tends to attract other positive energy. If I said something to Pooja regarding her good qualities, she'll probably feel better, and that will have down the line, chain reaction effect to the rest of her day, most likely, where that positive energy will then multiply to her saying something to one of her colleagues at work, which makes them feel better, and so forth, right? Like, we've noticed this in ourselves all the time. When we're having a bad day, we usually put out negative energy, at least to some extent, into the world, and that ends up having a chain reaction to everybody we interact with. Depending on how bad our day was, our energy might reflect that. But even if we are going through a difficult situation or a difficult time, and we can convert those feelings of anxiety or fear, anger, whatever it may be, loneliness, sadness, and if we can convert them into maybe doing act of service for someone, or if we can convert it into self-care, or taking some time for ourselves, anything positive, whether it's working out, if we can put that same negative energy and put it into building our business, we can see such incredible results, because what went in and what came out was completely different. Whereas if negative energy is going in and more negative energy is coming out, it's a race to the bottom. And if we're disassociating, that means we're not fully feeling. So I think the importance of connecting once again with ourselves will have positive upstream effects in pretty much every aspect of our life, and through us, the connected tree of people that are in our lives, it will probably have a downstream effect on all of them, because we'll be passing on that vibration to other people as well. So this has kind of been our treatise, or just a introductory take and perspective on disassociation and the harm it can do, and what's important about converting that into feeling and into something that's a plus for us. But that's our podcast on disassociation. And like I said, we're probably going to talk about a variance of topics on this podcast, so don't be alarmed or jarred by it. We're just trying to talk about whatever feels right day by day. And we hope you're along with us on this journey towards growth, recovery, and ultimately evolution, and reaching our highest potential, our infinite potential. Take care, and
bye-bye.
have a good one, guys.